I know where it is. So there are multiple schools about identity. Who am I? Who am I? There are several schools that will tell you who I am. And the Western narrative generally works around the notion that the state will register my name and therefore give me an identity. And this is one thing that states love. And in fact, if you look in the United Nations Charter for the Child, it says in there that every child has the right to a state-granted identity, which is the most Orwellian thing I've ever read. It really says that every state has the right to give every child an identification number and control their lives. But the UN, being the UN, gets away with that sort of stuff. Alternatively, there is the psychological school of thought, which says your identity is inside yourself. You've got the superego, the ego, and the id is one particular scientific theory or pseudo-scientific theory. And then there's various other things, such as the development of the child's brain, which goes through various phases, in which case it discovers the notion. The first thing it discovers is that there's something called a mother. It doesn't know that it's called a mother, but mother provides for sustenance. When it hurts, it cries. And then the second thing that it discovers is there's a father who happens to be around whenever the mother is around. And this is the creation of a triangular arrangement in the brain that says there's me because there's father and mother. The world started off with mother, and that was the only thing. Then there's father, and then there's me. And this is the beginning of a long journey as the brain learns who I am. And this goes on to childhood, through teenage years, and so forth. And psychologists have mapped all this. So that's a second school of thought. And then there's a third school of thought that says, well, actually, your identity is this. This is my identity. On this thing, which you all recognize as being a computer, is everything that is known about me. When I go out into social networks, when I write stuff, when I've got all my secrets in there, I've got all the various details of my life, etc., etc. If I lose that, I'm screwed. I've got backups, sure, but it'll take me 2 months to get through them and get them sorted out. So, if you like, there's this huge opportunity going out in the world today where people have recognized that the states are not doing a good job at identity, and we're not doing a good job at our own identity. So there's an opportunity there for corporations to come in and provide identity. So you ask me where we're going to be in 5 years' time. The corporation's 5-year plan, which gives them 2020 vision, is they will place your identity on their servers. And you can see this happening with Facebook and Amazon and Apple and Google, and they're all competing for your identity. That's a third view. And it's fair to say that we're uncomfortable with that. They're very comfortable with it, but I'm not sure they understand the end game there. Then there's a fourth view. And this is to go back to what is identity. Identity is such that actually me having a feeling of self is, that's fine. But what was this thing about me seeing mother, me seeing father, me understanding there's several people here? Oh, do I get an extension? Yeah. Actually, my identity is not really what's inside me. My identity is what's inside you. You're all looking at me, wondering who the hell this guy is. That is my identity. In the sense that I can impress you that I'm speaking good stuff, or I can't impress you, I'm speaking nonsense. That perception as a group will carry forward as my identity into future meetings, into future years, into future blog posts. People will say, Ian G said this stuff. And I remember because I heard, I saw. So my identity is in all your heads, not in my head at all. Which brings us to, if you like, the fourth school or possibility of what happens in the future. And that is, how do we get you as a group, how do I get you as a group to protect and nurture and be nice to my identity? And it's this, I think, which is the magic of the African invention of the chama, where in a low-trust society, before we were talking about, what was it, Google, Apple, Amazon, the States. Is that a low-trust society? I think we can see it that way. Maybe not as bad as Africa, but in a low-trust society, what we do is we come together as a group where we already trust each other and work to protect each other as a group. So how do we form those groups? That's the story of Africa, which I think is going to be their biggest export in the future, how we come together as groups. And it's interesting because if you go back and look at those various stories of identity, I can't do this by myself because I can't store and analyze all the information. I can't put it into my brain and make it all happen, as all these techies talk about. You know, we've got to store all this data and then analyze it, and data mining techniques and Bayesian statistics and all this sort of stuff. I can't do it in my brain. The state can't do it either, because the state can only collect that which is empowered to collect. You know, it can trick the UN into getting the right to identify me with a number. It can do that. But what richness can it get out of that? Not very much. Google can store huge amounts of data. It can store all the data, but it can only store what I can give it for free. The same with Apple, Amazon, Facebook. Only what we can store up there for free. Information that is valued at approximately zero can then be collated to create something that is approximately slightly more valuable. So we have a conundrum. I can't do it, the state can't do it, Google can't do it, but a group could do it. If a group had the software that collected information, if I was part of a group and I willingly gave them valuable information about myself, and the group protected that information because it's my group and we're all members of the same group, then I could build a situation where I would be comfortable inside my group would be comfortable with me, and we could work together. And I think that is the opportunity. And in 5 years' time, we'll know whether we got the mega corporations holding my identity or whether we managed to take it back.